So here are the three equations that we studied in this unit. Tomorrow. We got two different forms of equations for the parabola. Remember, if it's y equals, it's either it'll be a parabola that opens along the y-axis, so up or down, and it could also open left or right. So that would be in the form x equals some equation, right? And then if we have a circle, we put it in a different form. And what distinguishes the two is a circle is going to have your x squared and your y squared. Okay? If you don't have both x squared and y squared, then it's a parabola, right? And because you only have two types of shapes we're responsible for knowing in this unit, and you just want to, when you see an equation, if it doesn't indicate what it is, ask yourself, does it have both the x and the y squared? If not, then it's a parabola. So like in this first equation, don't look at the parts because the parts will give it away. But if you didn't have that on a test, on what do you think? A parabola based on this equation or a circle? Parabola because it's missing what? No y squared, right? There's no y squared here. And so we know it's a parabola. Let's take a quick look at the next one. Okay? If I said, hey, graph this, didn't tell you what shape it was, circle or parabola? Parabola, why? Because there's a y squared, but there's no x squared, right? It needs them both. And so because there's no x squared, it's a parabola. How about this one? This is a parabola, are you sure? This is also a parabola. Because there's no what? No x squared. Okay, so you wanna be careful that you look at that. How about the next one? This is also a parabola. Are these all parabolas? Because there's no y squared here. How about this one? This one we know is a circle because it's got both the x squared and the y squared. That's what gives it away, okay? Right. So let's look at the first problem. So we have gone through lots of graphing problems already and answered questions about these graphs. And if you look at part A through G here, one of them contains a question that we haven't been asking this unit yet. Which one is that? This right here. The line or the axis symmetry. It's not something new to you. You guys saw this in Math 2. And we briefly talked about it in this class too. And so let me remind you what a line or axis of symmetry is. Once you know what that, or remember what that is, it's not going to be a big deal here. So if you have a parabola, you know the parabola has a vertex and it has a focus. The axis of symmetry or the line of symmetry is the line that passes through the focus and the vertex. That's what it is. So those 2 points, the line that passes through those 2 points is your axis or line of symmetry. And sometimes we call it a line of symmetry, sometimes we call it an axis of symmetry. It's the same thing. Okay? So if we get a good picture, then it won't be hard to say what that is. It'll either be x equals a number or y equals a number, depending on which way this is oriented. So convert to descriptive form. All right, you guys are the experts now, right? So what do we do? How would you do that? Distribute the 4. Okay, should I multiply out the x minus 2 as well? Good. All right, you guys are the experts. So you got x minus 2 squared is 4y plus 4. Subtract the 4. And divide by 4. And when you divide by 4, make sure you divide the 1 here by 4 and the 4 by 4. And you end up with 1 over 4 x minus 2 squared minus 1 is equal to y, but I'm going to put this over the y on the left-hand side. Okay. Now we've finished part A. We converted it to the form that we want. That helps us describe the parabola. And the first thing we can say is which way this thing opens. Opens which way? Are you sure? Good. You gotta be sure. It opens up. It opens up because it's y equals a positive 1/4, right? Those are the pieces you look at, and it opens in the positive y direction, which is up. So we want to sketch this graph, but we need some more pieces here. We need the vertex to help us sketch the graph. So let's skip B and go to part C right now. What's our vertex? 2, -1, are you sure? 2 what? What's our vertex going to be? -1, 2? Okay. So here's how you settle this. That 2 is with what variable? X. So that should be an x coordinate. And so we want to go with the first one, 2, -1. Okay, we don't want this one. Okay. We'll get back to part D. So let's plot our vertex at 2, -1. We know this is opening up. Where's the focus going to be? Above it. How far? So this is where we got to figure out what 1 over 4a is, right? And so a is the number 1/4. And so I need to plug in 1/4 into this equation. So I get 1 over 4 times 1/4, which is 1 over 4 times 4 over 4. And you can either reduce that 4 over 4 and just get 1 over 1, or you can take that 4 over 4, flip that fraction over, and get 4 over 4. Either way you do it, you're going to get 1. Okay, so it's a distance of 1 from the vertex right above it. There's our focus at 2, 0. Where's our directrix? Our directrix, make sure you know it's a line. Don't give me a point. It's got to be an equation of a line. In this case, it's y equals. So y equals -2? You sure? Just making sure you're sure, because they're getting close to that test. I need you guys to be sure now. Y equals -2. Good. And then the focal chord endpoints, right? If the distance between the vertex and the focus is 1, what's the distance between the focus and the focal chord endpoints? Double that, right? So we got one here at 4, 0, and we got one at 0, 0. And so we sketch our parabola through the focal chord endpoints, through the vertex, opening up. And then the only part we didn't tackle yet is part D. And what I said is that always the line or the axis of symmetry always passes through the focus and the vertex. It's also always perpendicular to your directrix. And so what's that equation? Right. Good. X equals 2. All right. Skip now. We're just going to skip around here. Skip to the circle. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I want you to go through A through F as much as you can, convert to descriptive form, sketch it, find the center, find the radius, and see if you can find how many x-intercepts, how many times it touches the x-axis, and how many times it touches the y-axis. You need a good graph of that circle to be able to tell what E and F are. All right, so for the circle, you first reorganize your variables or your terms here. Put the x squared next to the 6x, and then leave a little room to complete the square. Put the y squared next to the negative 4y. Again, leave a little room. And then we're going to subtract 6 from both sides of the equation to make this equal to negative 6. And we're going to be adding a couple things to both sides of the equation. So then we cut the 6 in half and square it. What do we get? Which is 9, right? So we're going to add 9 to both sides of the equation. And then we cut the negative 4 in half and square it. What do we get? Just a positive 4. So we add 4 to both sides of that equation as well. And then factor. So the first 3 terms factor to x plus 3 squared. The last 3 terms on the left-hand side factor to y minus 2 squared. And then negative 6 plus 9 plus 4 comes out to be 7. So this is the descriptive form of the equation of a circle. So because we can look at it, we can answer part C. We can find the center. What's it going to be? What? Negative 3, 2? All right, that's a better yes. All right. Okay, and our radius? Square root of 7. Now, we don't know the square root of 7, but we do know it's between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. And we know that square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. And so our number is going to be between 2 and 3 when we're graphing this. So you find our center first, negative 3, 2. And then you're going to go between 2 and 3 to the right, left, above, and below. So when I go to the right, somewhere between 2 and 3, I don't quite make it to the y-axis. That's important. Don't go further than you need to. But when I go below that, a little bit between 2 and 3, I'm going to go below the x-axis. And so our circle will cross the x-axis, but will not cross the y-axis. So how many x-intercepts do we end up with? 2. Okay, one here, one here. And how many y-intercepts? 0. Okay. All right. Now, I'll do one more with you. Pick one more here. This one? Okay. So here, we want to convert it to descriptive form. What's the first step? Factor out that negative 2 from the first 2 terms. So when I factor out the negative 2, you're really dividing them by negative 2. And what's left inside the parentheses? X squared minus 2x. Okay? So then, got to figure out what to add to complete the square inside that set of parentheses. We cut the negative 2 in half and square it. What do we get? We get 1. But it really has a different value than 1. What's the real value of that? Because everything inside the parentheses is multiplied by that negative 2 out in front, right? So by putting a 1 there, it's really negative 2 times 1. So I need to balance this equation by putting what out here? Plus 2 times 1, or just plus 2. And now we can finish this form here. So we get y equals negative 2. Factor the trinomial inside the parentheses, and you get x minus 1 squared minus 3. That's our descriptive form. What's our vertex going to be? 1, negative 3. We could plot that. Which way is this going to open? It's going to open down. Are you sure? Good. Opens down. Okay, because it's in the negative y direction. How far away from the vertex is the focus? Well, do we even need that? We don't even need that. If we look at what we need, we just need a sketch of this graph. It's opening down. I'm good with this. Right? I'm good with that. You got your vertex. You're making it open down. We don't need that 1 over 4a here. But we do need to be able to answer the rest of the questions. So do you guys know what the equation for that line or axis of symmetry is going to be? Good job. X equals 1. It's right here. How many times will this cross the x-axis? None. The x-axis is above that parabola, and it's never going to open up, right? So you won't cross the x-axis at all. How many y-intercepts? 1. It touches the y-intercept once, and then we got it. I'm going to stop there. Your homework. All right, you guys, again, are the experts, right? Test is coming up. We've been doing this stuff. I want to convert this to descriptive form. What's the first step? It's already solved for x, so I need to factor out what? Factor out a half. Now, if I factor out a fraction, that's instead of thinking about dividing by the fraction, you can think about multiplying by the reciprocal. So what would I multiply by? 2. What's 1/2 times 2? Just 1. So I get 1y squared, which is what I wanted. And then multiply 2y by 2, and I get 4y. And I'm going to leave a little room to complete the square. And I still got the minus 1. And then we come up with that magic number, right? We cut this in half and square it. What do we get? 4. And so we added 4 here, so what do we do on the right side? Subtract 4? Add 4? You gotta be careful here, because when you add something inside of parentheses, it's really, you gotta pay attention to what number's in front of that parentheses. So this is really 1/2 times 4. Positive 1/2 times positive 4. So you're gonna put minus 1/2 times positive 4. Gives you a negative number, okay? So we get x equals 1/2. Factor the trinomial in the parentheses, and you get y plus 2 squared. And then what's this piece right here is negative 1 minus 2, right? Because 1/2 of 4 is 2. So that gives us negative 3. So that's part A. We converted it to a form that we can now describe this parabola. Which way is this parabola going to open? I heard up and I heard right. Are you sure? Okay, so it opens to the right because it's a positive x direction. It says to sketch the graph, but we need some more information to sketch this graph. So let's go to C, vertex. What's that vertex going to be? Negative 3. Are you sure you got that right? I want you to be sure. Yes, all right. I want to for sure. Yes, I know that's that. Okay, negative 3, negative 2 is right. Let's wait for the line or axis of symmetry till the end. Let's plot that negative 3, negative 2 though. There's our vertex. We're saying it's opening to the right. So the next point I want is the focus. Go ahead and find that. Okay, so to find the focus, what do we have to do first? You got to find what? The distance from the vertex to the focus. And how do you find the distance from the vertex to the focus? There's a formula, 1 over 4a. And what is a? A is the 1/2 right here, okay? So this is 1 over 4 times 1/2, which is 1 over 4 over 2. What would you do next to reduce this? Flip the fraction over, and then 1/2. We just get 1/2. So that's how far the focus is from the vertex. And I'm opening to the right, so I'm going to go 1/2 to the right of the focus. They're pretty vertex. They're pretty close. And that's going to be a negative 2.5, comma negative 2. And then let's go after the, well, directrix would be right here. What's the equation of that line? What is it? X equals or Y equals? Are you sure? Yes. X equals negative 3.5. Okay. Then our focal chord endpoints, how far are they from the focus? Double that 1/2, and you get 1. So we're going to go 1 above the focus and 1 below the focus. Those are our focal chord endpoints, and our graph goes through those points. Okay? And those are located at negative 2.5, negative 3. That's the lower point. And negative 2.5, negative 1. All right, now that line of symmetry, or the axis of symmetry, that's your line that goes through the vertex and the focus, right here. What's that equation? Y equals negative 2. We got it. All right, I want you guys now to do the next one. Start to finish. So, on this problem, we want to convert it to descriptive form. How'd you convert it to descriptive form? Because that's important to know how to do, right? What'd you do first to convert this thing? Did you do anything on this? Okay, you got to distribute the 5. So y minus 1 squared plus 5x plus 10 equals 0. Okay. The reason I'm doing this is I know I need to solve for x, because x is the one that's not squared. I need to get x by itself. Okay? So I want this 5x right here to be on the other side. I want to get that x isolated by itself. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides, and I end up with y minus 1 squared plus 10 is negative 5 times x. One more step. What's the next one? To get in the form we want. Divide by negative 5. And when you divide by negative 5, we need to divide all 3 parts by negative 5. So we end up with negative 1 over 5 times y minus 1 squared minus 2. And that's equal to x. All right? That's what we want to get for part A. So what's our vertex going to be? Negative 2, 1. Which way is it going to open? To the left. How far is the... Well, it's not asking for a focus here, is it? So we don't have to do that 1 over 4/8 because it's not asking for a directrix. Just do this. Open to the left. There we go. It doesn't even ask for the focal chord endpoint. So make sure you pay attention. What do you have to find? Because you may end up doing too much work. You didn't have to do all the other stuff. Line of symmetry. Do you know where that would go? Right here, huh? Through where the focus and vertex are. So what's the equation of that line? And how many times does this cross the x-axis? Once. How many times does it cross the y-axis? None. All right. So that's what we had to do on that one. Okay. I want to do one more with you guys. Let's do the circle problem, the one at the end.